to another English with Dry. Today we're going to take a look at the AQA Love and Relationships anthology poem, Follower by Seamus Heaney. This is one of the many poems in the anthology that is about a parent and child relationship. In this specific instance, it is about a father and a son. The speaker describes how he looked up to his dad when he was a young boy, specifically how he would go to work with him as he carried out his job as a farmer on a horseplough. The poem opens with a childish sense of wonder coming from the speaker, describing how he viewed his dad as someone who was a master of his craft when he was young. The fact that he can control animals by nothing more than clicking his tongue conveys how much respect the man commanded. The second line contains an interesting double piece of imagery. Firstly, we hear that the father's shoulders globed, which implies that he was both very strong, but also metaphorically how he was the entire world for this young boy. He was large and stable and a force in his life that would keep him centred, much like the earth does with its gravitational pull. But as the line carries on, it says that he globed like a full sail strung between the shafts and the furrow. Now this similarly furthers the impression that the father is in some way a motivational force for his son. Much like the sail gives a boat impetus to go forward, this is what his father does. However, it is interesting to note that he does not describe him as being in any way the steering wheel or the rudder of a boat, because this would suggest that he would be telling his son what to do. Therefore, we see the image of a man who is encouraging but not domineering. The second stanza begins with the short two-word sentence, an expert. This leaves the reader in no doubt as to how the son saw his dad. He was nothing short of perfect in this craft, and he viewed him in this way as being entirely flawless. As the poem goes on, we hear about how the son would watch his father map the furrow exactly. Now this refers of course to the furrows in a field, but the adverb exactly further confirms how talented and experienced the father was. Again, we can visualise the speaker watching his dad very closely and almost recording every move so that he may himself try and copy it later. By stanza number 4, the speaker turns to look at himself. He describes how he would stumble in the hobnailed wake of his father. Now, hobnailed here meaning, of course, a certain type of shoe. But it portrays an image of him as being clumsy, unsure of himself, and not really a natural in this environment. It suggests that he is actually more of a nuisance than anything, someone who would try to emulate and copy what his father was doing, but was singularly unable to do so. However, the tender relationship between the two of them is clear from the fact that the father does not seem to get irritated by his son, but rather he carries him on his back, much like the classic image of a loving father might do for his child. It shows that despite his extremely hard day, he would always find time for his young son. In the second to last stanza, we hear about, at that age, how the speaker actually wanted to grow up to be like his dad. We hear about how he would try and mimic his movements exactly, for instance, closing one eye, stiffening his arm, and about how all he ever wanted to do was follow in his broad shadow. Now, of course, the broad shadow brings to mind the idiom being in someone's shadow, and he both literally and figuratively was. The fact that the shadow is broad implies that he would never be able to live up to these high standards, the father said. Into the final stanza, we see a temporal shift. In this, we see the speaker jerk rather suddenly to the present tense. But today, it is my father who keeps stumbling behind me and will not go away. This shift implies that in the present, it is the speaker who is the fully grown, confident adult man, and his father who has become old, and perhaps aged to the point where he is no longer quite as confident on his feet as he once was, and therefore is now the one stumbling. He has to follow his son now and look up to him for help. This role reversal implies, almost, that he irritates his son. However, the final few words, will not go away, indicate that regardless of how inconvenient caring for him is, he will always mirror the care he was once shown. It presents this bond between the two men as unbreakable, despite the fact that his father is now the burden. And the 5-box summary. The speaker begins the poem by describing his admiration and respect for his father, a man who is a master of his craft. Secondly, the imagery used by the speaker highlights how his father was the whole world to him and a motivating force in his life. Thirdly, the speaker then shifts the focus to himself, describing how comparatively useless he was and how unhelpful he was to his father. Next, the speaker continues that at such a young age he wanted to grow up to be like his father. And finally, however, the poem ends with the roles reversed in the present day, and he is now responsible for caring for his father. I hope you found this video helpful. Make sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos.